It's the True Penny Show with your host, James True Penny.
Hello and welcome to the Christmas edition of the True Penny Show. My name's Drew. This is my show. We are back on modern day, up-to-date-ish kind of wrestling. We're going to talk about best women's wrestlers in the world for the moment. That's what we're going to talk about. And to join me, a fan of the best women wrestlers in the world, not quite his regular dulcet tones because of poorly sickness, it's Mr. Marcus Green of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. How are you doing, sir?
Doing okay. Holding on. It's that time of year that things are kind of coming about. Not usually used to getting sick. Not my usual gig, but pushing through. But thankfully, we back on our usual beat, closing out the year with some ROH. We usually like to, cover ROH as best we can because sometimes it can be forgotten and end up having some of the best wrestling out, but kind of falls up under the radar because of, it kind of gets the subsidiary treatment.
Yes, we do. We're also going to look at the 10 years of Chihiro Hashimoto and Sendai Girls as she celebrates her 10th anniversary with an absolute banger.
Yes.
Would be match of the year level of banger with Saree. And we have a lot to talk about in the women's professional wrestling world around these two cards, which I'm sure we will get to. But let's start off, as you know, one of my friends once said, if you're in Columbus, Ohio, trouble will not follow far behind. And indeed, trouble was Ring of Honor's final battle. 1200 at the Greater Columbus Convention Center. Maurice Coleman, Ian Rakabani, and John Moxley on the call, who was an absolute delight, was he not, Marcus?
But yeah, we always appreciate good commentary here because we've seen the worst of it, or heard the worst of it. But yeah, for years we've heard the worst of it. But yeah, they
God, yeah.
wonderful job, wonderful job.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. So glad Josh Matthews got back off his job. Anyway, let us open the show. Deonna Purrazzo and Billy Starks in the final of the Ring of Honor Pure's Women's Championship for the vacant and newly minted title. I think this match, was excellent and actually one of the best pure wrestling matches we've seen all year. Billy Starks is an absolute flat-out superstar and has been in a championship match every final battle for the last 3 years. She isn't 22 yet. Deonna Purrazzo is one of the most underrated professional wrestlers in North America. She is absolutely fantastic and was fantastic in this match. And the fact that the women of Ring of Honor now have the same number of titles, only the tag team titles, the only thing they haven't replicated in the women's division that they have in the men's division, and I'm sure that is due sooner or later, shows you the strength of depth in the Ring of Honor women's division. And when you look at this card, 1, 2, 3 women's championships matches on this card, and including the main event, that is an indictment to the effort Tony Khan is putting into the women's division in Ring of Honor. And the names in this division are the best names in women's wrestling. Marcus, where do we start?
I mean, everything you said. Deanna to me is one of the best, technicians in the game.
Mm.
Bar none, women, male, whatever. She's just one of the best. Period. And Billy Starks, meteoric rise has been really great to see because it's very easy to me to get lost in the shuffle of the greatness that has become Athena.
Mhm.
And I think they've done a real great job of letting her have her own spotlighted moments, even with her going against Athena at times. And that whole story, it's been really cool to see. And she's been slowly building, slowly but surely. And she's had her moments, but her crown's coming. But like you said, she's not even what 22.
No, I don't
Uh,
think so. I will check on that before I embarrass myself by saying the wrong thing. She is, in
yeah.
fact, 21 years old. Yes, I was right. Woo!
Well, yeah. Usually I'm on the wrong end of the age pop quizzes on this show, but yeah. Um, Yeah, it's just, she's really come along great and at such a young age, which it feels like she had practically a veteran status, with everything she's gone through. And also, like I said, being with Athena, I would imagine has helped her astronomically. But, for as good as a fighter she put up, like you said, this match was excellent. Deanna is just too honed in every area. was too steep a hill to climb. And Deanna, really proud of her because to me, for a long time that she was treading water. Like she had some momentum when she first came, but they've done that a couple times in AEW with women where they'll bring in a new name and they'll be
Mhm.
hot for the first few weeks and then they lose to whoever the champion was, say Mercedes Mone, and then they get knocked back into obscurity or they'll kind of shuffle them off the Ring of Honor, which it felt like they did with her at the time. But she, to me, obviously behind Athena, because really everybody's behind Athena at this point. Um, she's been brilliant in her own right, coming up with her own stuff and then really honing her character from a different perspective. She had an absolute uh, fantastic feud uh, with I'm not gonna call it La Primera, but Thunder Rosa. There it is, Thunder
Yeah, yeah,
Rosa.
yeah.
Fantastic feud with Thunder Rosa, who's another one who I wish would get more spotlight. And yeah, this is perfect for her. Deonna Purrazzo being a pure women's champion. It's PB&J.
Yeah, absolutely. She's absolutely one of the best nuts and bolts technicians in North American wrestling. She wasn't trained by Rip Rogers, but one of Rip Rogers' trainees, taught her the full Rip Rogers curriculum, as she described it to me when I interviewed her for, is it Total Wrestling many years ago now. And she is absolutely, like, just the absolute pure nuts and bolts of what a great American wrestler should be, as far as her character development is concerned, as far as her in-ring presence is concerned, because she carries herself like a champion, which she is now, once again.
Yeah, and
And
not for nothing. Wasn't they kind of building the division of what was starting to be the division around her at one point when this
yeah,
whole thing
exactly,
first started? So yeah, full circle feels like.
absolutely. And I think, you've got this new division, you have to build it in the same way New Japan did with the World Television title. They gave it to Zack Sabre Jr. Here, do something with this. And Purrazzo is the blueprint of what to do with that. Here, do something with this. And she will go, absolutely, give me 5 minutes and I'll make it the most important title on TV. Because that's the job. Is, I mean, the knock on AEW Ring of Honor is there's too many titles. But
Yeah,
equally, if the titles mean something, it doesn't matter to an extent. If there's a reason for them there, then that's okay. It's fine. They have no issue with it.
yeah,
We've talked to New Japan where some titles have lost meaning or they've lost direction. In which case, yeah, all right, get rid of them. That's fine. Or in AEW, when I do watch it, in Ring of Honor, when I do watch it, there's a reason for each title, and the titles there to make sense. Bear in mind the NWA had like 50 odd titles for like 100 years, and it was fine. But it's okay. It's very, very specific titles, like Texas Deathmatch Champion of Amarillo on a Tuesday. Um, so you can do it. It can be done, and I think this is a prime position for Deonna to really shine. Anything else you would like to say about that?
no, that's good. I mean, that's shout out to the ladies. Obviously, I think this could have been maybe further down on the card, but they kicked it off and set the pace for the card to me.
Yes, absolutely, definitely. In fact. And speaking of the Pure Championship, arguably the two greatest Pure Champions in the men division, Lee Moriarty, accompanied by Shane Taylor, because he's of Shane Taylor Promotions, against many times champion and legend of Ring of Honor, Nigel McGuinness. 31 minutes and 59 seconds in an Iron Man match, which was only supposed to last half an hour. This was excellently well played to a time limit draw, and then went into overtime with Lee Moriarty taking the deciding fall. This was fantastic. The old man still got it. He really has. He's his ability to just do the things that are required of him in all the experiences he has is fantastic. And he really let Moriarty go and show off what he could do. The whole point of this is to make Moriarty a bigger star, right? Nigel's not going to be at his age a main event wrestler anytime soon, and he's quite happy with that role. His character isn't, obviously, but him as a wrestler, I'm sure he is. And the fact that he can give this kind of rub to Lee Moriarty is absolutely fantastic. This is how you're supposed to use a veteran wrestler who only comes out of retirement once in a blue moon. This is fantastic work, and thoroughly enjoyed this. My initial thoughts when I saw them coming down the aisle were, are these two still at it? And then I watched it and I was like, no, they should be at it for a very long time to come. So this was fantastic. This was really, really great. And as ever, there are uncertainties in life. Don't spit in the wind, don't stand on Superman cape, and Nigel McGuinness still hates Bryan Danielson. Marcus, what do you think of this?
As asinine as that comes off, you gotta appreciate consistency. Um, yeah, just everything you said again is just two of the best. Like it's crazy. Like you said, Nigel McGuinness, well documented as another one of those great technicians and somebody whose career has really been, stamped in legitimacy and just pristine wrestling, respect for the sport. And it's really cool to see him be able to come back in Ring of Honor, no less, and then really be able to, you know, put together some real finishing quality pieces with guys like Daniel Bryan and Lee Moriarty, who probably doesn't get the amount of attention he deserves because
Yeah.
talking about somebody having a banner year in Ring of Honor besides Athena, you got to mention Lee Moriarty. He has been on a tear with that man's pure title, and talking about somebody that puts on nothing but bangers. This kid is on another level as well. And it's really cool to see him with Shane Taylor and those whole promotions finally being consistently successful because Shane's another one who really deserves some spotlight. But yeah, Lee Moriarty has been brilliant in everything he's done with everybody he's fought with. No matter where you put him at on the card, and this was just another showcase of that. It's crazy that so much of the IWC puts so much into those lists because ultimately it's just too subjective to really give that kind of energy to. But it's crazy to me that somebody like Lee kind of gets left off there because he is absolutely a stud. And to me, I put him on any card with anybody, and it's gonna feel like a main event. This felt like a title match, and it was non-title. So
Yeah.
these two looked at the women and was like, oh no, we got to go. we gotta go. This whole card is ace, but yeah, these two is brilliant. I'm really glad that Nigel's really getting to have this run.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is kind of like this historical rebound on this run as well. And I use the word rebound intentionally because you've got John Moxley commentating, and McGuinness and Moxley trained together in Ohio Valley Wrestling with Les Thatcher. Not Ohio Valley, sorry. Main Event Wrestling, that was it, wasn't it? Les Thatcher he was the kind of like the guru, a British wrestler. And funnily enough, the influence that McGuinness had on Moxley was pretty direct because I think there was a Ring of Honor show, or there was an indie show, and William Regal was there scouting for the WWE, and Nigel asked William, "Would you mind please critiquing my match and letting me know what I'm doing right and what I'm doing wrong?" And after the match, William went to him and said, "You're a British wrestler." He went, "Yeah, but you don't wrestle anything like a British wrestler." Because at the time, Nigel grown up on WWE and WCW and had learned the American style of wrestling whilst he was there, never really considered himself a British wrestler. And he said, go home, go find some tape, go watch some stuff, and incorporate it into what you're doing. Anyway, Nigel goes home for a bit, renew his visa before he goes back to training. Finds a tape of Wes Kellett, Johnny Saint, and all of the old World of Sports stars. And specifically is taken by Les Kellett's bump into the ropes. And if you've ever seen Les Kellett's bump into the ropes, it's an old British wrestling routine. But basically, Les just falls backwards and bounces off the ropes and dodges his opponent every time his opponent will try and throw a forearm. And Les will just bounce off the ropes and bounce out of the way and land on his feet and just smile at his opponent. Nigel saw that, and that turns into the Les Kellett lariat, which the first person to take was John Moxley. Because Nigel was just like, just kind of stand there. I've got this idea for a clothesline. And Mox was like, okay. And of course, Moxley uses that move in his match in tribute to Nigel because of their relationship. And of course, that kind of like leads on to things like Hangman's Lariat. The influence that Nigel had from watching Les Kellett because of a conversation he has with William Regal ends up changing maneuvers in pro wrestling. And that's how we get the wrestling we have, which I find fascinating to be in this particular moment and for us to all be privy to that little mini story. But there you go. Shall we move on, sir?
You shall.
Indeed. Ring of Honor Women's World Television Championship. Mercedes Mone loses to Red Velvet in 13 minutes and 44 seconds. This is the first in her ultimo run, if you see what I mean, where she has had a clean pinfall loss to a major rival. Now, looking at this match, I always thought Red Velvet was good, but the amount she's come on in the last year, she looks like a ring general. She looks confident. She looks crisp. The delivery is fantastic. Everything's snug and tight and smooth. And this match is 8.83. And that's not all Mercedes Mone. Mercedes Mone is the epitome of a superstar wrestler. She's as good as it gets. She is absolutely fantastic. I love her to bits. However, the thing that struck me most about this match was how great Red Velvet has come across in the interim. She's had a year where she's been off the roster with injury. She was interim Ring of Honor Television Championship. She loses the first match back with Monet to unify the belts, and then Velvet wins it back. And that's incredible storytelling. And it starts with Monet's life falling apart, right? She is the
Yeah.
championships of her, and so everything is the championships. And now there's a chink in her armor, and everyone's seeing where her problem lies, and everyone can take on that target. And I think that's just like, you're going to have a year of her slowly being chipped away at by everybody on the roster, and she's going to make everybody on the roster. And not only everybody on the roster, everybody in an indie promotion that she's been wrestling for the last 2 years. She's going to make people in Rev Pro. She's going to make people in every indie promotion she's worked in. And that's amazing. And that's fantastic. And anyone who complains about it is wrong. Will complain about it. And you know the reason why people will complain about it? It's because they're racist. Sorry, I have to say that out loud. Does my head in.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's just the top of that list. That's probably wrong with those individuals.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But
I
yeah, I
apologize
mean,
if it's racist.
yeah, it's insane. We living in some
It really
weird
is.
times, man. Weird times. But yeah, Mercedes Mone is worth every bit of what she's being paid, and it's really cool to see because with everything she's ever gone through, particularly in WWE, you just know that this is like what she's doing now is like the manifestation of everything I'm sure she's always just wanted to do. But she's
Mhm.
imagined what she wanted to be as a performer, and she she's getting paid well. Like I said, I can't imagine she's heard the word no since she's met Tony Khan, and she's proven why.
Yeah.
And to your point, it's just telling that great story. Everything for the last year and a half has been in her orbit, but now we're going to start telling the story of Saturn losing his rings, if you will.
Mm.
Which is great, and she's going to tell that descension as well as she told the ascension of it. But to me, again, right behind you, um, just Red Velvet got one of my favorite stories in wrestling because it was not too long ago when all she was window dressing for Jade on AEW.
Oh, yeah.
I remember this, and she's always caught my eye, but she's kind of just been in the background and really looked like somebody that could have a spark and really come off well and do some good things, but never really had the opportunity. Like you said, over the past year and a half, she has just honed the character, her moves, like she gave as good as she got, if not better in this match. And like you said, she came off like a leader in this match, which is not always easy to do with somebody like Mercedes, who's now is the very definition of battle tested worldwide. And this was the right move to make. She came off, like you said, a year's injury, worked her butt off to get back, deserved this win. This is yet another element, like I said in the story of Mercedes, kind of like that Achilles heel that's being chipped away at. And these two, to me, much like Nigel and Elite, they could run an Iron Woman match. That match was
Oh,
this
yeah.
good, and yeah, it's just great. Like Red Velvet is killing it, and her and Queen Aminata to me are just like absolute dynamos and just crowns and a jewel of this women's division that's being created. And yeah, this was the right move, and Mercedes made it look like $1,000,000. And like you said, Rev Evan was a very significant contributor to that. And yeah, these 3 matches that we just talked about was like the very definition of like everybody was just like, hold my beer, no, hold my beer. So that was that's great. These women delivered as always.
Yeah, this is just fantastic. It just so crisp, so nice, so well put together. Didn't outstay its welcome, was the right length, had to be kind of like there was more to come, so couldn't steal the show, did everything correctly. It's, it was like, someone was saying earlier, like, oh, only 40-minute matches that don't get 5 stars, 6 stars, da, da, da. It's like, yeah, but this is a perfect 30-minute match. It needed to be 13 minutes and 44 seconds long, and it was 13 minutes and 44 seconds long. That's what they needed it to be, and that was perfect. It doesn't have to go on forever. In fact, there's matches on this card we wish would have friggin' shorter. Well, this, it's perfection. In as far as a North American wrestling match is concerned, that's trying to sell the story of a TV title. This is
Yeah.
what you want. TV championship matches shouldn't be any longer than 15 minutes. So New Japan have got it right. 15-minute time limit. That's what it should have been. And this was perfect for that. Anywho, let us move on. We've got a lot to talk about today, and Marcus's voice is sore, I can tell. So we're going to crack on. La Facción Ignorable. Sammy Guevara and the Beast Mortos. Now, if those of you have been paying attention, last time we visited Ring of Honor, Sammy Guevara, what's the word? Betrayed the Sons of Texas by turning his back on the Von Erichs and forming a relationship with Roosh. And Roosh is off injured, so he couldn't defend the titles. So it was Sammy Guevara and a partner of his choice, the Beast Mortos, going up against the #1 contenders, Adam Priest and the Dynamite Kid, Tommy Billington. 13 minutes and 11 seconds. This was an odd one. Couple of reasons. Adam Priest, Tommy Billington, fantastic tag team, but not over, which left a vacuum for fans to pick the person that they wanted, who was Beast Mortos. They love him. Why wouldn't you love him? He's awesome. They hate Sammy Guevara. So Priest and Billington were kind of on an uphill struggle as far as the booking was concerned. Would have been easier on their part if you're trying to get him over. Just saying. And at one point, Adam Priest goes, "Oh, now you're cheering for me," which is kind of a bit of a tell, and he probably shouldn't have done. But the actual wrestling content of this match was really good. Did enjoy the actual wrestling, but it was kind of the Sammy and Mortos show, and that's fine. That's what it needed to be. I think Adam Priest and Tommy Billington are exceptionally great when it comes to potential. My only argument would be the reason why the Bulldogs work was because Davey was big and Dynamite was small. And when they're both small, it doesn't always help. So if you're having a rejuvenation of British Bulldogs, you need somebody who's bigger than Tommy Billington. Bigger than Tommy Billington. And Adam Priest's great, don't get me wrong, love the guy. I think he's fantastic. I think Tolly's fantastic as well. Perfect to do this kind of work. However, if you try and build them up, Tommy needs a bigger partner. Just saying, if you want to do that, you don't have to do that. It's kind of a bit derogatory, but it's just, it feels to me that's what they're after. But you can't have the Bulldogs without a powerhouse. And as much as Adam is a great wrestler, he's not a powerhouse. In fact, Sammy Guevara and the Beast Mortos are a kind of prototype of that type of tag team. Anyway, what did you think of this?
Yeah, real quick. Well, do you think because it kind of vaguely reminds me, and maybe I'm off on this on an aesthetic level, kind of reminds me of like you said, a heightened aesthetic like of the Wolves.
Yeah.
Um,
The reason why there's 2 reasons why the American Wolves were called the American Wolves. One, they formed in Wolverhampton on a tour show, and the other reason was they wanted to do it as a tribute to the British Bulldogs, American Wolves, canines, national canines, if you see what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was kind of thinking like when I looked at that pair, I remember like Richards always kind of felt like maybe or looked like the stronger man of the two, and I
He was
wondered,
the Davy boy. Yeah.
yeah, and I was wondering, do you think one of them, if they don't just switch somebody out for a bigger guy, that one of them could like maybe bulk up, and maybe that could aid it in that regard?
I think so. I think, but you kind of they're clearly kind of after that kind of look, and I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah,
I mean, like Eddie was the Davy boy, and Davy loved Dynamite perhaps a little too much. There's a documentary about the Dynamite Kid, and David Richards narrates it. Will tell you how much Davy loved Dynamite. But I think, yeah, I think Adam. I think if you're going after that look, there is maybe some British wrestlers you could have looked at that would fill that spot. In fact, a couple of them have been on Ring of Honor and AEW shows this week with them visiting Cardiff and Manchester. They've probably been looking at a couple that would kind of fit that bill a lot better. But yeah, I think that's where they kind of need to look. So yeah. Anyway, what's your thoughts on
yeah,
this match?
yeah. Much like you, didn't really know who these guys were like that, but they really showed up and showed out. Like you said, the crowd hates Sam Guevara. He's definitely no longer one of those in his former pillar status on AEW. I think he's been far better used in Ring of Honor. It's been cool to see him kind of find his way in a way after that dissension, if you will. Now that he's a heel, the only thing that's going to get him cheated is him being next to cooler guys like De Hapon and certainly guys like Mil Moulton because he stole the show here. He is actually absolute brilliant talent, whether he's tagging with somebody or alone. And to me, it's only a matter of time for wins or breaking out. But yeah, he's what's making this train go right now. So
Yeah, absolutely. Where are we? There's not an awful lot else to say about that match because not an awful lot else happened in that match. It was kind of like predictable, but it was good predictable.
yeah,
Yeah, it was kind of like did what it said on the tin. As did the next match, which was again not particularly pulling trees up, but I enjoyed it because I enjoy these two wrestlers. Josh Woods versus the Mad King, Eddie Kingston, returning to Ring of Honor for the first time since his injury. 9 minutes and 45 seconds, a tune-up match for Eddie's challenge at the AEW World Heavyweight Championship, held by one Samoa Joe. And if you want somebody to throw you around and make you toughen up for the Joe, Josh Edwards was a good example of how to do that. I think, the low rating on this particular match was because it wasn't particularly interesting. It was just kind of there, but there was reason. I think they did enough to justify its existence. I like Josh Woods. I like Eddie Kingston. I like people hitting each other really hard. And this kind of filled that tin. What did you think of this one?
I'm right there with you. Josh is a stud. We know Kingston is very much making himself um, respectfully the Ishii of AEW.
Yeah.
Where it's just somebody you got to go through. If you really want to prove yourself. Obviously he's studied under the greats. Nothing but respect for the greats and patting himself after so many of the greats in Japan. And yeah, it's really cool to see him back. He's a missed presence, even if he's not wrestling. He's a missed uh, personality. Just like I said, the man is someone one of the realest guys in wrestling. So it's really cool to see him back. Glad he's back healthy and doing his thing. And like you said, this was a kind of a tune-up match. No disrespect to Josh the Goods Woods. Kingston is really trying to get back in his bag. And if you go against somebody like Joe, who anytime he gets really back in his mode is notable anywhere in the world, he really needs to get back into in form. So, like you said, this was solid, but it didn't need to go under 10 minutes, and it didn't.
Yeah. Eddie Kingston's not a great wrestler. He's a great wrestler. He's just he makes you feel everything. And he's not a great technician, and he's a great fighter. And that's the thing, is you feel Eddie Kingston and you feel everything about Eddie Kingston, and he's one of us. That's the important thing about Eddie Kingston. He's one of us. As Moxley was saying once in an interview once, why do you care what happened about Shikara 10 years ago? It's because Eddie knows we care what happened in Shikara 10 years ago. And that's the important thing. He's one of us. He's a fan who just happens to be able to kick ass. And that's the reason why he is the absolute perfect guy for AEW. Like, if you watch the backstage stuff and you see him as a leader in that locker room, like he was a leader in the Shikara locker room, like he was a leader in the Ring of Honor locker room, he's he's the guy you're gonna have. He's the same guy as Mick Foley was in 90s WWE. They didn't hire Mick Foley because he could produce great matches. That was a given. They hired Mick Foley because he could put ballast into a young roster that was hungry and liable to make mistakes. And Mick can fix things, and Eddie can fix things. And now he's back.
Yep.
AEW, ooh, that's going to be good. Yeah, I think he's going to do things that are going to surprise a lot of people. He said this week he's got 6 years left on his contract and he's going to go live in the Pacific Northwest, well away from everybody when he's done. And by God, Eddie, you deserve it. Godspeed to you, sir. Anyway, sorry, I do love Eddie Kingston a lot, as you can imagine. Any more thoughts on that one?
No, that's it for me.
That's okay. We move on to the Ring of Honor 6-man tag team championships, currently held at the time by Shane Taylor Promotions. Carly Bravo, Shane Taylor, and Sean Dean. They were accompanied by Anthony Ogogo and Trish Adora. Did Anthony Ogogo go to WWE and come back again? I get confused.
He might have. They, it's that highway is open whenever they feel like bringing stuff in. So that likely happened, and then you got a race or just ignore it.
No, he didn't. No, it must have been somebody else. No, he has stayed with AEW throughout his entire career. He did a bit for Rev Pro, and that's been it. He's been mostly Ring of Honor ever since. I'm just making sure. I got confused. I'll be honest. I'm like, sure, I've seen you somewhere else. No, it must be somebody else I was confusing with. I do apologize. They went up against Skyfight, Dante Martin, Darius Martin, and Scorpio Sky, accompanied by Christopher Daniels and Layla Gray. 11 minutes and 28 seconds. This was lovely. Big dumb wrestling match. People flying everywhere. And then there's Shane Taylor just throwing people around in the middle of everything. Can't complain. Top entertainment as far as I'm concerned. What do you think, Marcus?
Like you said, this was ace. Everything flowed and worked. These two great factions here. Like I said, I love Shane Taylor and Shane Taylor Promotions. And everything feels like it's coming up them right now, and I love it. And like Charlie Bravo, Shane Taylor, and Sean Dean was like, and Coach Trish Adora was to me one of the best additions to Shane Taylor Promotions. So they was good, but they really needed another spark. And I think putting it with Shane was great for them, and also it is because now they tag champions. But Skyflight always delivers in these situations. It's cool to see Christopher Daniel still doing his mentor role and that whole deal. And Skyflight are definitely future champions, just not right now.
Yeah, they've got the crew. This is a nice crew of people. Obviously, Scorpio Sky and Christopher Daniels traditionally heels in AEW, but making them faces in Ring of Honor was a bit of a stroke of genius. It gives them an awful lot to do, doesn't it?
Indeed.
Yeah. AEW National Championships. Ricochet, who you may have noticed me and Christy are not fans of for his tape-like appearances. Going up against Dalton Castle, 14 minutes and 57 seconds. Speaking of entertainment, this was fantastic entertainment because I love Dalton Castle. He's awesome. And Ricochet's kind of the ideal foil for him because he's so overblown. And Dalton Castle is so overblown. And therefore you have this level of performance going on. But it's like watching a Queen concert, to be honest with you. It's just everything's going on all at once. So from an entertainment point of view, thoroughly enjoyed it. Not particularly a great wrestling match, but didn't need to be because look at the guys involved. And that's going to say, and that's going to sound really odd coming from me, that I'm not interested in this as a wrestling match when Ricochet's in it, when everyone's like, all he does is wrestle. But actually, this particular environment, his wrestling would have gone in the way. So I think this worked out way better than it could have done. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but I think it's a hoot. Myself, perfectly happy with this for what it was. What did you think, Marcus?
Same. I mean, I just got put on to you and Christy not liking Ricochet. I always have to pause because wait a minute, what happened? Because I always like if they on Christy and James is happy or something, what happened?
He doesn't done anything like really bad, but when he first joined AEW, kind of like people going confused with Andrew Tate, and he started doing an Andrew Tate character, and it was like, oh god, no.
Oh, gotcha.
Horrible, and it was, and then he kind of stopped doing it, thankfully.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it wasn't like he hasn't personally done anything awful. It's fine. But it's just like, oh God, read the room, dude. You can't. I had this conversation. I had a long conversation today with a guy on Blue Sky who was like, I think we can probably embrace more risque storylines when it comes to stuff like misogyny and racism, and we could have heels that are like that, and then they could have their comeuppance. And I'm like, no, absolutely not. Do you know why? Because people still have to sell T-shirts, and people can't go on mainstream television and just be racist because it's not a TV show. It's a character, yeah, but it's a guy playing that character. And that guy has then got to be, or a girl has then got to be portrayed as, well, this guy was a racist at one point. And it's like, you
Yeah.
can't do that. You just can't. It's not, it's 2025. And oh my God, the history of misogyny and racism in professional wrestling, no.
No.
Because I don't trust
No.
promoters, I don't trust wrestlers, and I don't trust audiences to take it in that particular way. You're
Exactly.
all right.
And
Have an argument, but it's just like absolutely not in a million years.
yeah,
No.
exactly. And African American performers have come too far, specifically women have come
Mm,
too far for you to regress because you have some weird need for like horrid nostalgia that wasn't good at the time, but the
yeah,
sign of the times being what they were, it was applauded. But no going back. But yeah, Ricochet,
yeah,
it's funny for somebody that's been known for defined by and lauded for so much of his career by his athleticism and his performance in the ring, has now come to AEW kind of found nuances within other avenues around his in ring stuff. Obviously, like you said, that earlier character iterations or imitations aside, he's really found that effect either comedically or begrudgingly with just how he moves as a heel, and it's
mm,
worked out for him. Because he's always gonna be able to deliver in the ring, but so much of his game was kind of shady,
yeah,
coming off of his WWE run. So he really needed to hone that. I think he's found that in AEW, and for him to be able to put on bangers in a way with somebody like Dalton Castle, who is a Ring of Honor pillar at this point. To
yeah,
me, it's cool, and I think that national championship is perfect for him right now.
yeah. That's it. And like we were saying before, it's like if the title's working, it doesn't matter. But there's too many
Exactly.
titles, and it's working for him. It's doing a job, and it's whether the next person can do a job with that title and make it worthwhile. That matters really. Excuse me. Apologies for coughing. I haven't got my mute button anywhere near. Anyway, let's move on. Ring of Honor World Title Survival of the Fittest six-way elimination match. Now, you will know, if you're a regular listener to the Troopany Show, my relationship with multi-man matches, which is I'm not a fan. So, when I saw, oh bless me, some of the greatest wrestlers in the world and Christian Blake are going to have Blake Christian are going to have a wrestling match.
It's
I was like,
um,
Christ. 27 minutes and 53 seconds. I thought this was never going to end. I'm amazed it's not stopped now. It should still be going. This went on forever and ever and ever and ever. And too many twists. It lost me. 7.72 from the cage match users, and Uncle Dave gave it 4.75 stars. But it's like, oh my God. I could have watched Commander and Hachirio 5 times over in the time it would take, and they'd have got the job done a lot quicker, and it'd be far more entertaining, in my personal opinion. However, I am not the masses. What do I know? Marcus, you were attuned to the people. Set me right.
yeah. I normally am tuned to the people, but I'm slowly being not converted at all. But you oftentimes hit the nail on the head when it comes to stuff like this. Obviously, I'm more of a fan of multi-man matches than you are, but this was you cut this pie down, and to me, you could have had equally much as a banger with Brandito, Mortez, and Hechicero, three of the best anywhere.
Yeah.
No shot at Guevara, Commander is beast, and like you said, Blake Christians, we glad he showed up. Um, but yeah, you could have cut this pie down and made it just as like I said, a triple threat: Brandito, Beast Mortez, and Hechicero. That's a spectacle anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Um, I get it, but this was that get your stuff in type match. And
Yeah.
I don't think the ending was ever in doubt. Obviously, it could have went another way. They really wanted to spice stuff up and be like Brandito was in a scenario where it was just too much that could have went on. But yeah, this was a spectacle, get your stuff in type of scenario, and hopefully we get maybe that match I mentioned on the next show. Uh, yeah, but yeah,
Or
I
anything else.
can't rock with the audience on that. Yeah,
I mean, it did make a change from Don Callis Family Monster of the Week stuff, and it was nice. It was a nice change in pace. But even then, you got a Cheerio in there. He's a Don Callis guy, and that's
yeah,
fine. That's okay. And I don't want to knock Bandito because he's been a fantastic Ring of Honor World Heavyweight Champion. He's been amazing, and I mean, the year he's had in AEW and Ring of Honor as tag team champion and as a singles wrestler has been fantastic, and some absolutely stunning matches with Chihiro and with Konosuke Takeshita. Just love what the guy's done with the belt. He's been fantastic. However, I think it showcases what they can do. Yeah.
yeah,
Equally, it's like I've been more interested in watching Blake Christian lose to Bandito in a singles match than watching this. As much as I no one we know likes Blake Christian. He's the absolute. His character is basically the living definition of a generic white guy. So, so it's just like I'd rather see generic white guy versus Bandito, if you don't mind, please, because that makes more sense. And you've got chance of getting generic white guy that nobody likes over, and you haven't with this because he just kind of got swamped. And I think
yeah,
it's one of them things like it's the Rambo at Wrestle Kingdom, isn't it? Get everybody on the card kind of thing. And it felt like that more than the genuine step of making the championship mean more. And it would have been
yeah.
worse.
And it kind of hurts. And maybe this is just me. It kind of hurts when you throw guys in matches like this that the
Mm.
champion has had 5 stars with in singles.
Mm-hmm.
So you almost kind of just focused on them clashing, and like, man, they could have just ran this back as a singles and made it like as you know, versus something falls or something like that, or on Iron Man or something like that. But yeah, like you said, maybe you could tell a better story of like generic white guy can't beat, top Mexican king wrestler, you
Yeah.
know, and just trying to climb that mountain, We didn't need to see get Sam Guevara twice.
No, absolutely not. No knock on Sammy. He's perfectly good and he's a heat machine. But it is equally like it kind of like furthers. They're all one step closer to the championship, yeah. But the champs just beat them all. So yeah, yeah, it's okay, I guess. But it's not really
Yeah,
making me interested. So we'll move on. However, main event
yeah,
time, and there's always one
yes.
person that makes me interested in Ring of Honor, and that's Athena. And the other person I thoroughly enjoyed this year is Persephone. So having them together in the same match was, ooh, this is intriguing. And I was absolutely right. Best match on the card, best match of December, arguably best match of the Ring of Honor year. The
Mm,
accolades keep coming for Athena. It was interesting, like somebody put up the video of Athena and Jody fight from Dark 3 years ago. And everybody went nuts because Athena and Jody kind of threw some stiff forearms at one another. And all the old heads were like, we can't do that on Dark. Women's wrestling shouldn't be like this, blah, blah, blah. And it was like highly steamed in misogyny and racism, as I pointed out, because, is it because a black woman's being aggressive? Sorry, I'm not going to apologize for that one either, because it's true. That's what happens, because people are casually racist and don't even realize they're being racist. And then I look at it, and Jody's got a full-time job in TNA, and she's been fantastic ever since. And Athena has been the best wrestler in North America for 3 years ever since. There isn't anyone as good as her. There just isn't anyone as good as her. She's ran the board on that TV show and every pay-per-view that she's been on. When she hasn't main evented, she's outshone the guys in the main event, which is the reason why they keep putting her on last, because she's the one that matters, and everyone in her orbit, like Red Velvet, like Trish Adora, like Billy Starks, have all come up with her. She is the epitome of what leadership in a wrestling locker room should look like. She is the champion that you should be in this particular environment. Last week, on the Friday re-release on YouTube, I released the story of Harley Race. And the comparisons between Athena and Harley Race are endless. I hate to compare people back to the past. I know I do it all the time, but you really shouldn't. But she is the closest thing this generation has got to a Harley Race. And she's going to own that company and take that brand forward. And to be honest with you, it's one of those things like, yeah, she should be on AEW television every week. But equally, I want to be cooler if she just made a Ring of Honor just as big as AEW, because she's one of the people who can do that, if they let her. Marcus, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, point blank in the period, man. Athena is the gravity of Ring of Honor. She is the gravity. You know, everything pulls and then it leans into her as it should. She is the forever champion. You see why she got that title, earned that title, and at this point they could retire with it. At this point, she's that good. I love that they open and close with great women's matches.
Yeah.
And this match, my only drawback of it, criticism, is that I found myself in the same scenario I was in when Mercedes faced Stephanie Becker, where it was like, I'm here for the champion, right? But I feel like I'm
Yeah.
staying for the challenger.
Mm-hmm.
When Persephone is, and they definitely need to grab onto her and keep her, because she is, always, like I said, Athena is the type of queen of that Mount Everest. And should stay there for as long as she wants to. But somebody like Persephone definitely has next. She has everything: the look, the build, the aggression, um, you name it. She has it, and this match was proof of that. And like I said, it's just like Athena is just insurmountable right now, as she should be. Like I said, she's the gravity, but somebody like Persephone, this was a proven match, and Persephone proved why she should be a consistent mainstay and a key piece in that division going forward. And yeah, like you said, best match of December. Certainly one of the best women's matches that we've seen this year. I'm only saying one of, because we have another show to do. But yeah, these what Ring of Honor, it's crazy because we talked about, like, it didn't really feel like that too long ago that they were ever going to get this division going with the ground, and now look at it.
Oh, yeah.
You
I mean, like, the first Ring of Honor pay-per-view we saw was Sumi Sakai taking the Ring of Honor Women's Championship for the first time, right? And I love Sumi. Sumi is a legend, and she did amazing things for pro wrestling, but it was in front of a crowd that died for women's wrestling. It wasn't Sumi's fault. She wrestled her heart out. I can't remember who she was wrestling at the time, but she wrestled her heart out, and the crowd were just like, "Yeah, all right." And now Athena drags them in the building, sell out 1,200 people, and that's the reason for the company to exist is women's wrestling, right? It's
Yep.
and it's with all credit to Tony Khan. He knows that. He's well aware of that. That's why, Mercedes Mone is the biggest name in women's wrestling on planet Earth, and she was in the third match on this card. Because Tony knows who's the important players in the Ring of Honor Pro Wrestling. He gets it. And I don't watch AEW enough to critique it properly, but I watch Ring of Honor enough to know he's doing the right things. He's got the job done. And that's incredible. We've been watching these shows for 7 or 8 years now between us. We always do the big 4 shows for Ring of Honor. When other stuff's gone by the wayside, we don't do TNA really anymore because, good God, it was horrible.
Yeah.
Even we lost patience with it. But Ring of Honor, we've always stuck with through the lows and through the highs over the time we've been doing this podcast. And now we're getting to the point of there aren't that many lows. Either.
Yeah, I mean, look, you said it. You gotta tip your hat to Tony Khan, because at first it seemed like he was kind of just shelling people off to Ring of Honor, that he didn't know what to do or didn't want to really do anything with on AEW proper. But I think by focusing certain talent in certain instances, putting certain pieces there consistently, and kind of letting a lot of it, you know, just the talent kind of do their own thing naturally. Like I said, Athena's really just somebody you could just let go. You know, at this point, she could be running the show um, from a wrestling and creative perspective to me. But he's really allowed the brand to kind of rehone itself into something great. And of the shows we covered, to me, they haven't missed. You know, they haven't had a bad show this year.
Mm.
They've had some of the best to me pay-per-views of the calendar year. They've had some of the best wrestling on those shows that gets overlooked because it's Ring of Honor.
Huh?
And you know, big company narratives usually hold the frame, but they've had some of the best matches. They have some of the best wrestlers. They have the best wrestler in Athena, and yeah, it's just been really cool to see. You know, Ring of Honor really rehone itself into something really consistently great to watch. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. Right then, we have to move on to Sendai Girls because that's kind of what we do. However, before we go there, I want to discuss some things and get Marcus's take on this because I think this is really important and is a bit of a watershed moment in professional wrestling here history. The Tokyo Sports Pure Wrestle Awards were announced this week. Rookie of the Year is Kaiseki Takechi of DDT. The Best Wrestler of the Year, the Technique Award, goes to Hiroshi Tanahashi. One would expect. The Outstanding Performer goes to Konesuke Takeshita. And the Tag Team of the Year goes to the Knockout Bros. None of those are a surprise. You know, Takechi has kind of like brought idol wrestling to men's wrestling for the first time. Hiroshi Tanahashi, it's probably a Lifetime Achievement Award and an excuse to invite him to the dinner before he finally goes, and that's reasonable. And Knockout Bros have been the hot tag team this year. And Konesuke Takeshita, though his championship run has been controversial, has been an outstanding performer. But the two top awards, the Fighting Spirit Award and the MVP Award, for the first time in Tokyo Sports Puresso Awards history, have not gone to men. The Fighting Spirit Award went to Saree of Stardom, Saree Productions, Marigold, Sendai Girls, wherever she fancies turning up, to be honest. An MVP went to Red Belt owner, the king of the World of Stardom champion, Saya Kamitani. How about that, Marcus? Two women on the top of Japanese wrestling, something Aja Kong never did, Bull Nakano never did, Minami Toyota never did, Akira Hokuto never did. All of the greats never able to achieve this. And Saya Kamitani and Saree are changing the wrestling world. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. You know, there's a saying that like what's meant for you will never miss you type of deal.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, knowing this business the way that we do, and there's so many unfortunate narratives that have existed for a long time. In these scenarios, by the time they get to a lot of these women that you know, because you are up on these women long before they ever come into prominence, they're probably late to the party. A lot of these, you know, women in that regard. And certainly somebody like Sari, who we're gonna get into. That fighting spirit is perfect in terms of associating it with her. But yeah, that was really cool to see. I had seen it like early in the week and so on Twitter, and it's really cool to see. But these women have been, you know, really the best things going on their brands wherever they've gone for so long now. But a lot of times, like I said, a lot of prevailing narratives kind of take place, kind of break through like that. It feels, you know, better late than never. But also, like I said, a lot of times, you know, even if we can't see it at the time, it's kind of like perfect timing. So it's really cool that that's happening. We need to see more of that. I hope we get more of that. And you know, these women aren't going nowhere, and they're building themselves up in such a way where, you know, we're living in a time, and we just mentioned it with Athena and Mercedes, where they're bringing people with them. They're bringing the next generation up with them. They're not the best of a crappy bunch. They're the best of a cultivated bunch of quality performers that will come and take their spots and eventually, hopefully, get those awards as well. So, you know, it'll feel lackluster if they were like, you know, the only ones, but they're building the next generation along with them, and that's really what the business is all about. So.
Yeah, I have to say it, boys. A rising tide sinks all boats. Watch yourself, because the competition's really, really high for the best wrestlers in the world. And we're at Kurikan Hall to watch the best wrestlers world. Back on the 16th of November, Chihiro Hashimoto, Big Hash, celebrated 10 years in the professional wrestling industry, and Sendai Girls put on a party for her at Kurikan Hall with a World Championship match in the main event. But let us go to the opener. Sellout crowd, and it looked like Hurricane of all. There was banners off the rafters, there was flags. The crowd was hot from the get-go. And this is the excitement we're talking about. Me and you and Christy and Ruth and everyone have watched matches from Kurikan this year and gone, wow, that crowd was half asleep. Not today. They were hot from the moment the show started until the moment the show ended. It opened with Yuna of Sendai Girls, along with Yura Suzuki of Alma Libre, who we know from Glate's UWF division. She had a lot of matches in Glate UWF we watched a couple of years ago when she was like 12. She's 19 now, by the way. Just putting that out. 19, and she's been wrestling for 5 years. Of course she has.
Exactly.
Yeah. And they went up against and defeated Soy and Chi-Chi. Soy wrestles for Pro Wrestling Evolution, and so does Chi-Chi. They are no age at all. Chi-Chi hasn't got a birth date on this, and neither has Soy. Oh, birthday 23 of the just generic dates. They've been wrestling for a year, both of them. And this was a fun little opener. But Yuna and Yuka Suzuki take out the victory. The veterans of this match, who are nearly in their 20s. What did you think of this one, Marcus?
Yeah, I wasn't expecting much because the opener usually kind of hits the beats, gets in, gets out to kind of set a certain tone, and then we get off into the meat potatoes later. But I think these women came out there and was like, no, we're not gonna let you just look at us and forget about us. This was some good stuff here. Like you said, the young veterans took the win, but it was by no means a throwaway. They really showed up here to kick off the show really good. So, like I said, they surprised me because, like I said, I thought they would just kind of go hit the beat to get in and get out. But I could very much see these four, going at it again, maybe with some titles on the line. So,
Yeah, this was fun. This was a good opener. And it's like as those matches are there to get the crowds going, right? That's the whole point. Next week we have the Jaja Uma tournament final match. Now, this is a Sendai Girls tournament. It was run last year. Zones won it last year as the breakout rookie of Sendai Girls. I've looked up Jaja Uma. Jaja Uma is a manga comic. I'm wondering if they're sponsoring it, or there is some other reference. If you do know, please let me know. Because I'm like, this is intriguing me. There is also a PlayStation game about it. Anyway, that aside, it was the name of the tournament, but it's intended for young wrestlers. And the two wrestlers in question were Senkei Akatsuki and Spike Nishimura. Now, we are big fans of Spike Nishimura on this particular podcast, and I was talking to? I remember Alan Nell. I think it was Alan 4L, of Wrestling Observer fame. He was like, Spike Nishimura is the best name for a wrestler ever, and it is. It's fantastic. And Semi Akasuki, we've been a big fans of because we've watched her not in Marvelous, but more in Marigold, challenging for the tag team titles and tagging with Roha as kind of like the big young up and coming star of Marvelous. He's certainly going to be the key member of the next generation of Marvelous wrestlers. So this was a big showdown match between the rising star of Sendai and the rising star of Marvelous. And it showed they wrestled like they were wrestling with a company on the back, which is the way these matches are supposed to be, especially for rookies. 9 minutes and 15 seconds. This was just great to watch. It just all guns blazing offense, and you gotta love it. It's just like, no, we're not going to stop. None of this selling malarkey. We're going to crack on. And yeah, if you like hitting each other really hard, this is the one for you. What do you think, Marcus?
yeah, this was a slapper, and I got surprised because for whatever reason I thought there was going to be a size difference, and there wasn't.
No.
These are two more statuesque women who did not come to slap box. They came to throw forearms, kicks, and whatever else they could, get out of the kitchen sink at each other, and it was great. And like you said, Spike is such a great uh, name for a performer, and Sinker came to, like you said, put on for her brand as well, and they really took each other to the woodshed, if you will. And Sinker really, came through and delivered. I don't know how confident she felt um, on that top rope at the end, but she got it done. And I also like that I'm a stay on you type pinning thing she
Yeah.
was doing, because we know it takes a lot of energy to kick out. So that was a little cool element to me. And Spike going after the arm for the whole match, and then Sinker kind of trying to go after the legs, but also having to find so many other avenues in terms of pinning scenarios, because really that arm was just, it was getting to her. So this was a cracking match. These women really, like you said, put on for their brands, and really showed you why they're gonna be the ones to look after in the years to come.
Akatsuki really reminds me of the like late 80s, 90s wrestlers in All Japan women. She's kind of got that. Obviously, she's trained by one in Chigusa Nagayo, but she's really got that attitude of just like, she's a throwback to like Akira Hokuto and Banana Toyota and Toshi Yamada. Like, I don't care, I'm coming. I'm gonna hit you
Yeah,
hard. And if you hit me hard back, I don't care, because I'm just gonna cut you up and hit you harder back. She just looks, she's got that kind of like girl next door look about her, like Toyota had to an extent,
yeah,
but she's got that attitude that Hokuto has of just don't care. I'm going to give you the best wrestling match you've ever seen, and you're going to enjoy it because I'm going to make you. And it's like, I just love that. I love watching her wrestle because she just doesn't care, and I haven't seen that in a long time. And Spike's great. I love Spike as well because she's so straight ahead as well. She's kind of like, because she's another throwback to like shoot style wrestler and that kind of offense. Obviously, perfectly suited to be a Sendai girl. She wouldn't work in other promotions, and she's brilliant, and I love her to bits as well. So I am looking forward to those things. And of course, Spike is from Providence, Rhode Island. She is not Japanese, which makes Spike Nishimura even better name for her. Anything else you'd like to add about those two?
Oh, it was great, and congrats to Stinker. She, like I said, she pulled out that win. She peeled off that frog splash.
Yes, and she was presented with her trophy and certificate by Meiko Satomura, of course, co-president of Sendai Girls. Right then. Now there are a few streaks in wrestling that get broken, but one will go on forever because Sakura Hirota is still on her shit 29 years into this career, and she ain't showing no signs of stopping now. So today on this show, she came out dressed as Chihiro Hashimoto to celebrate Chihiro Hashimoto's career in a full bodysuit and dreads that were actually, plaits that were actually attached to her head with a rope because she couldn't actually control them. This is Sakura Hirota, and she throws everything into every little bit she does. She was in a three-way match with Aja Kong and Yu. And this was probably Aja and Yu's last match together before Yu retires, and Aja was determined to have some fun at the expense of her longtime nemesis, Hirota. And it was a big dumb wrestling match. Can't argue with this, because Aja and Yu went off with arms around each other as best mates, and Hirota was reeling on the floor in agony, which is the best way to end a Hirota match, in my opinion. I love Hirota as well. She's absolutely fantastic, but big dumb wrestling match. Not particularly great. Have the kind of thing that have Jim Cornette spitting feathers, which of course we all applaud here. What did you think of this, Marcus?
Yeah, I'm gonna lean on your historical conventional wisdom when it comes to this, because going off of our Life and Time series, I don't know why you would come in anything related to something associated with Aja Kong playing any kind of games. I don't care what age she is. Coming is savage, and it was funny, like you said. To me, I could have just watched a final singles between her and you,
Yeah.
because Arata feel like she was trying to sell something to both of them, and it never got through. It never got through. Like, nobody cared by the end of the match. They didn't want no parts of it. We don't want no new vacuum cleaner, no Girl Scout cookies, or whatever it is you selling, we not buying. And so that was my takeaway. Like you said, this match, it was a match, and they did stuff in it. But to me, it's just always brilliant seeing Aja Khan because she's just such a fixture. And the fact that she, ended the match going off, like you said, into the sunset with her friend, which, like I said, during the Life and Time series, is not something I'm necessarily used to because she does so much devastation, brilliant devastation in a way. But yeah, this is a varied card. So
Yes.
there's appreciation for this match to that point.
I think I at one point I have to show you there was a match that when Hirota was a rookie, her Chigusa Nagaya picked her to be her tag team partner in a match with LCO, and LCO beat her for 30 minutes. They
Oh,
were
wow.
savage. They were just savage on her. And I think it was at that moment she went, "Yeah, comedy wrestling."
Sure.
No, comedy wrestling seems to be. There's a niche here that I would fit into perfectly. Or Itsuka Mita could pile drive me through tables for the next 20 years. I think you have to see that match, and you will get Hirota a lot better after that match.
Yeah.
Because it was savage. It was like absolute breathtaking story, but absolutely savage. But it's one of the great LCO matches, and I'll have to find it. We could discuss it at length at some point, probably in the new year. Unless we do a life and times of Sakura Hirota, but all the matches are very, very similar. It's just like, she wrestled Iger again. But anywho, let's move on to more important things, shall we? I'm not saying that Aja Kong and you are unimportant. Neither is Sakura Hirota. But I know it's not your particular cup of tea. So let's just move on. Now, LCO, as we've just discussed, were an era-defining tag team. And arguably, as much as they have a daft name, Bobo Momo Badana have been an era-defining tag team in Sendai Girls, and Cosmic Angels, Aya Sakura and Natsupoi, have been an era-defining tag team in Royal Wandering Stardom. So this was a tag team dream match. Sakura and Natsupoi have been tag team champions in Stardom. Obviously, Momo Badana are kind of long-term number one contenders to the tag team titles in Sendai Girls. So this was kind of a dream match. And Monono and Oka are fantastic just because they're awfully cutesy and they come to the ring dressed in fruit and veg or fruit-based gear. And they do all of the idol stuff. And then they kick the shit out of you. It's the most
Yeah, that's
disarming
right.
thing you've ever seen, isn't it? Just watching him like,
Yeah.
oh my God, what are they doing to these people?
Yeah,
What's your
it's a beautiful fusion. Yeah. It's a great fusion. This is what I like when the comedy kind of gets infused with the seriousness because it got to the point in this match because they definitely with the hijinks and the color and everything. That's another thing I like about them. You'll never be able to not tell them apart from their opponents. Um, you got to coming off of Glee. We know how you gotta do your brand good deal with the colors and whatnot and the coordination. But yeah, I appreciate that being able to flip it on, flip it off. We're gonna be with the hijinks, and then when you just think you're getting comfortable, we're gonna start kicking your head off. You didn't. They invite those girls to a super kick party. They invite them to a drop kick party, and it was hilarious. 'Cause they had to peel off like 15 drop kicks apiece, maybe
Yeah.
more. But yeah, it's just you cannot take them seriously if you want to, and then you'll look up and find yourself on the end of a loss, and you won't know how you got there because you were too busy chasing them around the ring, coming back into the ring, getting your hair played with. They're taunting the crowd, and next thing you're getting a 3-second tan. So I like that dichotomy. But the Cosmic Girls, they had something to prove, and they got the Cosmic Angels. Pardon me. They had something to prove, and they got it done.
Yeah. This is kind of like a generational tag team match to have, really, to be honest with you. Obviously, Mako Satomura has a relationship with Stardom and has a relationship with Marvelous, which means that the Sendai Girls becomes this netherworld where wrestlers who don't normally speak to one another can wrestle the local crew. And this was a great example of how that works out for Sendai Girls. They really do get the best of everything. It's amazing. Because that more with connections, because she's never upset anyone, and she's always been nice to everybody.
Yeah.
Means that she has the backdoor key to every wrestling promotion on earth, not up to and including the World Wrestling Entertainment. She knows everyone. She does everything. She's omnipotent in the wrestling business and can get the best out of everybody. Which is why people are willing to work with her, and that's amazing. Shall we move on, sir?
We shall.
Indeed. Next up, we had a singles match. Now, we have seen the young upstart Maria has a bit of reputation of being a bad girl over in Marvelous over there. The heel's heel, if you will. Well, Dash Chisako, the Queen of Hardcore, has some things to say about that. And she set to teaching Maria a lesson. 9 minutes and 16 seconds. This was proper wrestling. This was a beating. Maria absolutely took it to heart. But this was fantastic. Dash is amazing. I love her. I've been a massive fan of hers for years. John Dinsdale, also massive fan of Dash as well. Loves her to bits. One of the best hardcore wrestlers in Japan. One of the best minds in professional wrestling. She's the booker for Sendai Girl these days. And yeah, she's great. And Maria is obviously a youngster. She is not particularly old. She's 25. She's been wrestling for 6 years. Of course she has. But she's got a lot of presence, and this won't be everybody's cup of tea, but this was fantastic for me. I really enjoyed it. I love watching Maria. I think she's a really interesting character for Marvelous to have, because she's kind of girly girl, but a mean girl, I suppose, is the real kind of like archetype that she's going for. And of course, Dash is the perfect person to go up against her with that, the tough and hardcore warrior. So yes, it was great. Kind of wrestling, kind of classic storyline. What do you think of this, Marcus?
It's funny because I thought about you while I was watching. Somebody did. James got to be loving this. 'Cause
Yeah.
this is this has got that foundational proper skirfing vibe that we so love here. Um, yeah, far be it for me to tell any of these beautiful women, very talented women, um, anything what to do. But if I'm in the ring and I'm standing across from somebody that looks like uh Dash, uh, Mrs. Dash Chisako, and I start doing my hair and makeup in the corner. Then I look over and realize oh my gosh, she has a mouthpiece in. Yeah, yeah, I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to use that mirror and that brush as a weapon because I'm not. And it never ends well. When these women have mouthpieces in, it never finishes well. It never does. And Dash is just perfect example of that. You really don't play with these individuals. They will take your stuff and use it while they're taking you to the woodshed. And that's what she did here. And shout out um to the young lady, the Marie. She did what she could, but I'm like, you are just a level below. This woman is clearly an assassin.
Mhm.
As much as you're taking it to her. And yeah, like you said, this had proper skirting vibes to it. So this was good. Dash is definitely one of those, women that you put against, one of your up and coming stars to really test what they're gonna do. And I think, like I said, I think Maria showed up, but like, yeah, next time you might want to jump her from behind or something, or give her the brush in the mirror, and as soon as she started using it, like to beat over the head or something, because you had to start out of the gate real early here, and she didn't do that. And like I said, she had some good moments of coming back. It was never. I don't think it was ever in doubt.
No, it was, yeah. You have come to town to learn a lesson, young lady, and that's where it was. It was fantastic. Next matchup was four mates having fun. Takumi Iroha and Veni. Takumi Iroha of Marvelous Pro Wrestling. Veni in freelancer that spends a lot of time in Sendai Girls, almost a Sendai Girl regular, but not under contract. Going up against Red Energy, Miki Iwata and Mayuki Takese. 10 minutes and 45 seconds. These are so well matched. Iwata and Iroha are the strikers. Veni and Takese are the wrestlers. Styles make fights. And the smile on Iwata and Iroha's face after their first exchange. Oh, it's a wonderful thing. It's like, yeah, this is gonna be good. We're gonna have fun here. In 10 minutes and 45 seconds, it's just great. Just fantastic tag team wrestling. It was setting things up for the main event. Didn't really left a fair bit on the table for things to come in the future. And like we said, not every match has to be 40 minutes. For 10 minutes and 45 seconds, this was perfect. Just what it needed to be. Doesn't have to be any more than this. Did the job. Got everyone excited for the main event. And got everyone excited for the idea of Iwata and Iroha. Or Veni and Takesi. Or Veni and Iwata and Iroha and Takesi. Everyone was better off at the end of this match. What's your thought, Marcus?
Yeah, I just we always appreciate quality tag team wrestling here, but particularly with the women, and I always appreciate it with Sendai Girls and Barry Gold and others because, excuse me, but there's just an expectation there's going to be a crisp to what they do, a snap, everything that they deliver, and I don't ever have to worry about anything feeling dialed back um, with what they're doing. Like I'm watching Jordan Grace these days, and it just feels like she's couple gears under of what she was doing in TNA. And I don't know if it's because they told her to dial it back in NXT because these girls are clearly not on your level or whatnot. But it feels like there's a dial back element to her for whatever final reason. She's still, I mean, Jordan's still one of the best. Period. But yeah, I don't have to worry about that when I watch stuff like this. Like I'm getting all the suplexes, all the way it feels like the women do the best. Make no two drivers. Uh,
Mhm.
so yeah, these women really, you know, delivered. Obviously, you do want to show up and do your thing before the main event. Not that anything was going to be able to overtake the main event, but yeah, these women delivered. And I could definitely see them running this. Uh, they could have ran this another 20 minutes.
Absolutely. Definitely. And so we come to the main event. Sendai Girls World Championship match. Your current champion, Chihiro Hashimoto, going up against Saree, arguably the greatest professional wrestler in the world today. 20 minutes and 56 seconds where they proved they are the two greatest professional wrestlers in the world today. You will not find a professional wrestling match than this. This is as good as it gets. Top to bottom, Hashimoto is the best monster wrestler anyone's produced in the last decade. Saree may be the best all-round wrestler anyone's ever produced this century. This was just fantastic. I'm prone to hyperbole in moments like this. However, when wrestling is this good, what else do you say? It was brilliant. Really, really well done. Just absolutely rising to the occasion of what this match needed to be for Hashimoto. While Saree is a dominant force, and she's a sun god after all. She is a dominant force. Her generosity in these moments when, this match isn't really about her. This match is about that title and Chihiro Hashimoto and what she means to Sendai Girls. She understands that. She knows the assignment. She's going to get the best match she possibly can out of Hash, and Hash is going to get the best match she can out of her. This is genuinely what about being an ace of a company is supposed to be about. You have an invading force, an outsider in Saree as an independent wrestler, as a freelancer, and no one, I don't think, has bounced back after a poor WWE run as well as Saree has. And she's kind of like making herself known. She had some matches in AEW this year. She is, the offers are there. I think it was more to do with the fact that she was IWGP Women's Champion at the time. She kind of seems to be done with the old Bushy Road at the moment and is back in the fold of Cyberfight. But she does what she wants to do. Do you know why she does what she wants to do? Because she's the best wrestler on earth and she can do exactly what she wants to do and no one's going to complain. Because why would you when she can do things like this? And yeah, sorry, Marcus. I can't say any more than that because it's just this good.
No, man, you know me. I'm always try to sit in the front in the true penny classroom. I could listen to you wax poetic about this for another 10, 15. But for me, with this, like, and just shout out to everybody that's behind the show. They do a really good job of showing you highlights and historical elements leading to in and around these matches. So
Yeah.
obviously they clashed before, and to me, my favorite thing about this match was the story element of like there was nobody, whether you was a stranger or the closest person in her personal life to her, that could have told Saree that she was gonna lose this match.
Oh.
She'd been here before. She knew what she wanted to do, where she needed to be, how much she needed to do, and all that entailed. And she executed, and there was, like I said, nobody in all the universe that could have told this young lady she was gonna lose this match. And yet somehow she still did. That's a hell of a story to tell when you, like you said, you got, you know, the mountain and then somebody who's like the ultimate mountain climber, right? So
Yeah.
it's just really great to see. Like you said, we will, guaranteed a banger, obviously, anytime these women flash. Like I said, Saree had been here before and she lost. And she had clearly cultivated a game plan because you saw that throughout the match. She was confidence in everything she did. Felt like she know what she needed to do, what was gonna put this insurmountable mountain of a woman away. And even when she was on defense, it felt like she still had the game plan, but it wasn't enough. You know,
Mhm.
so that's just a great story to tell. Obviously, she's a future champion. Obviously, she's been a champion, and maybe she will eventually get this title, but it's just not now. So
No.
phenomenal match. Certainly is going on the match of the year scenario and the list. And yeah, this is why we cover these shows. This is why we love women's wrestling, and this is where you go get the best form of it. So, I'm just glad we got the reviewer to watch it. I'm looking at it again as we're talking about it, and it's just phenomenal, just phenomenal.
Yeah, it's worth watching 2 or 3 times because it's that good. This is why Josh is so great. It is like we watch this show and there's no English commentary on it, and it doesn't skip a beat, does it? You never feel out the action. You never feel like you're misinformed. You never feel like you're missing anything out because it's in a different language. Everything is so direct and pure and so well done. You don't need it.
But
I would love to have English commentary on it, don't get me wrong,
yeah,
but I don't need it. It's not necessary.
yeah, and this is kind of weird and foreign to some people, but when the wrestler's as good as this, like you can hear it as it's happening. If that
Mm.
makes any sense. Like it tells itself specifically if you tuned in, you tapped in like we all watched a bunch of this stuff. These, well, you can call the moves yourself. It's rarely anything that they can do that we've not seen. Um, so the performance, you know what it is, the stories of these women, you more so than most people. So you
Mm.
already have everything in your head. You really don't need any adage uh, to it. Like you said, you appreciate it when it's there, but the wrestling is so good that the story kind of tells itself. You just kind of long for the ride, and the emotions are always there. And like I said, they do such a great job because it's just and a lot of other Japanese promotions and scenarios where the story is just such a long weaving thing that's always coming back around and weaving in and out that all you kind of have to do is get in that square circle and kind of just top it out. And that's what they did here. Like I said, the way Saree went about this, there was no way watching this that I believed that to her she wasn't going to win this.
No, because
And
she's so
became a
good at
victim.
throwing herself into matches. And look at all the matches we've seen her in this year in Marigold and Stardom and in New Japan and Sendai Girls. And she's just so good. It's just like it's unfair how good she is. Like she's getting into that generational kind of level that Mako Satomura was at. And Hashimoto is as well. If you're putting together your top 10 wrestlers in the world, then if these two aren't on the list, that's not a list that doesn't qualify. Because you ain't watched enough wrestling and you ain't watched enough Sendai Girls. So, yeah. This is the thing. It's pro wrestling subjective, and what I say is my personal opinion, as is yours, Marcus, but it is like they're just on a different level right now. There isn't anyone touching them at all. as far as match quality every day. You know, not just every. I'm looking. They're not just doing it. I can put this. They're not just doing it for the big shows. They're doing it for the small shows. They're doing it for the house shows. They're doing it for small clubs in the back end of Osaka. They're doing it every day. This feels like it used to feel like. It's the closest thing we've had to that generation of wrestlers in the 1990s who blew everybody away. And we're getting to that point now where everything's that good.
Yeah, because it's not for the celebrity fanfare, social media, whatever other extraneous stuff that is kind of become such a pivotal part a lot of times in the art form. This is what you call absolutely for the love of the game.
Mhm.
This is the love of the game, and it's great stuff. And I'm a big fan of great scenery and love of sunset and all that bit. But there are a few things in all the world that are more beautiful than a perfectly executed bridging German suplex.
Oh yeah. it's a glorious, glorious thing. It really is. But even then, they're earning money. Stardom are selling out Sumo Hall. TJPW are selling out Sumo Hall. Sendai Girls are selling out Kurikan and Sendai Sun Plaza. They're all there. They're not quite just there. They're not quite bigger than the men's promotions. Yeah, Stardom will be bigger than New Japan within 2 years if they carry on the way they're going. The only thing they can't do is the Tokyo Dome. But I don't think any promotion can do the Tokyo Dome to do it justice. Even New Japan,
Yeah.
the Tanahashi's a farewell, you're going to get 50,000. That's the biggest crowd the Tokyo Dome has seen in 25 years. And absolutely justified. It's Tanahashi, of course it is. But equally, pro wrestling isn't the heights it once was. It's never going to fill the Tokyo Dome with 65,000 people, partly because the configuration's changed and they can't. It's not going to do what they used to do. The only play, but you're going to get 10,000 at an all-women's wrestling show sooner or later. It's going to have to happen. They're going to go, well, yeah, it's already happened this year because they've gone to Stardom, have gone to Budokan and filled it and put 12,000 in there. So you're going to get to the point where you're going to get women's wrestling shows that are getting 12 and 10,000 again. They're going to go back to Yokohama Arena and do it there and Kawasaki and those places. And it's just amazing to see.
Yeah, because there's no, and obviously it's different cultures, but there's not necessarily such a need for like one-upsmanship when it comes to architecture like that. When it comes to the wrestling space, right? Like, there's no desperate thing. I'm asking you this, like, there's no like thing of somebody like we have to build something that's bigger than a Tokyo Dome.
No,
That type of
there
deal.
is.
Yeah,
No, it's more of like we need to do a bigger show than we did last year. They're
gotcha.
competing with themselves. They're not competing like the Joshi offices. How it was splintered in kind of like '92. The splintering started to start then, but they always helped each other out and they always kind of like worked together to make Joshi better. And that's it's more like traditional Japanese business. I always do this analogy during the earthquake in the '90s. The Dunlop factory in Kawasaki closed down because the factory wasn't safe. Bridgestone made tires for them for 18 months until the factory was safe again because it didn't do Japanese industry good to have one dominant force. So Bridgestone helped Dunlop out, right? Which sounds daft to any other like country, but it's a collectivism, right? There's a collective idea. It's a collective idea of capitalism. And that's always kind of rung true in pro wrestling to an extent. Now, back when there was only two major promotions, Baba and Inoki, it could be which way the wind blows, whether they work together or not, but they didn't hate each other. They worked together at certain points and didn't at other points. But generally speaking, you can tell in their wrestling style, they went after two different products, right? So Baba was about telling stories through wrestling matches, and Inoki was about trying to make pro wrestling a real sport or trying to present it as a real sport. And the same things happen with Joshi. There's a house style to every promotion we watch, right? Marigold's more about kind of a bit of, there's always that mix of idol stuff of like, swimsuit calendars and selling t-shirts, and that's Rossi Ogawa, right? That's the kind of background he's come from. He was an AJW person. You've got to have pop culture along with pro wrestling. And you look at Sendai Girls, and it's pure pro wrestling, right? There's nothing else. There's no
Yeah.
characters. There's no like development. Like Iwata is the same woman. The only difference between me watching Iwata now and 10 years ago is she kicks people harder and she wears red instead of white. And that's the only difference, as far as I can tell, right? She looks meaner than she used to do. When she was 19, she looked, kind of mean, and now she's 29, she looks really mean, and that's kind of where we're at. And so, but that's what they do, and they've got a formula for each promotion, and each promotion does their thing. Like Tokyo Joshi Pro is probably a little bit outside of the other companies because of its association with DDT. But even then, like theirs is much more kind of like family fun, idol-based wrestling, right? You have music, and it's kind of taking that Crush Girls thing, the beauty pair thing, to the extreme because they are actually idol pop stars who end up wrestling. So every company has kind of a trait, and every company has an approach. Or you've got marvelous wrestlers on this show, and you've got Stardom wrestlers on this show, and you've got Marigold wrestlers on the show, and that's perfectly fine. Even though Stardom and Marigold are at loggerheads, they're two companies that will not work together because Rossi Ogawa took half the roster from Stardom. So that's it's though it's not always hunky dory, there is a genuine feeling of crossover between the companies. They all support each other in their endeavors. There's no one going, Stardom aren't going like, I have to thump Marigold out of business because that's counterproductive to, I have to make Stardom the best wrestling company on earth. So that's, it's not like, you wouldn't get counter programming shows like you do with WWE and AEW, which is just dumb. It just puts you like in the spotlight of like being accused of stuff, so why bother? But you don't get that in Joshi because it's like, well, we might need to borrow that person next week for another show somewhere else, so we're not brass them off because why would we need to do that? Yeah.
Yeah.
So while it's not, there's a collective responsibility to the business, and Stardom wouldn't have got where they've got without help from other people. That doesn't mean, they're obviously all in competition. It's a business at the end of the day, but there's enough pieces of the pie for everybody to make money. So therefore, everybody helps everybody else, and that's fine. So it's if Stardom do Budokan, that's amazing and it's fantastic, and there's 5 to 10% help from other people. Equally, they all get out of each other's road when they need to. That's what the interesting thing about the men's wrestling scene is. They tend now to get out of each other's road. New Japan and Noah aren't in competition in the way they used to be anymore. And you see New Japan like loaning Hiromu Takahashi out to New Japan Pro Wrestling. To No Pro Wrestling, he's doing stuff for Noah now. That's fine. They're happy for him to go. They've done all sorts of things with the promotions. They do stuff with DDT all the time. The general feeling in Japanese wrestling promotions is it's pro wrestling. We're all pro wrestlers, and we're all about making money in pro wrestling, so we all help each other. There have been shifts down the years. Obviously, Noah and All Japan were at loggerheads for a long time. But even now, there's like guys who float back and forth. But it's fine. But yeah, I think the Japanese wrestling industry in general is in an interesting place because it's the first time the women's wrestlers are in a position to take over business-wise as well as quality-wise. And it's interesting the way the wrestlers talk about the business. Because Ozawa went on a mad rant, because Ozawa goes on a mad rant. He's probably the future ace of Noah, and he's top heel in Noah. And his argument, him and Kiyomiya got voted the match of the year, and that match took place in January. And he said an interesting thing. He says that's a failure for pro wrestling because no one's coming in and played anything better than what we did in January. Which you the attitude Japanese wrestlers have now. Yeah, that's which is not a defeatist attitude, why aren't we doing better attitude? And that's a change. Now it's partly Ozawa the character, but there's a grain of truth in that. You've had a year, why aren't you beating us? Why hasn't anyone done anything better than me and Kiyomiya did? We should, it's like someone should have done better. And it's a lot of things that Tsuji's saying as well about in his run up to the match at Wrestle Kingdom. He's like, I have to beat Takeshita because otherwise we'll become an AEW training zone like NXT or something.
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, I think that's really interesting that they kind of want the Japanese industry to move forward.
Yeah.
Whereas the women's division, the women's wrestlers are just doing it. They're just moving it forward. They're not making a fuss about it. But yeah, sorry, I went on a rant there, but you did ask me to, so I think that's fair.
No, like I said, I could always, love hearing you wax poetic about this stuff because it informs the stuff around the show. Like you said, there was a
Yeah,
time when a lot of these women, will end up being forced to retire because of the age situation.
yeah,
So,
definitely.
we wouldn't have gotten a lot of this. So the fact that, like you said, the quality is matching the business element of it, and they're gonna, got a potential to be as big as these long run promotions with just the men. It's great. On top of what we said about, you know, the MVP and the workhorse award. So everything is just culminating together.
Absolutely. I think that's the interesting thing for me is like the uh, there was a period in the last generation where it stopped being so serious because there was too much pressure. And certainly in the original iteration of Rossi's stardom, there was far too much pressure and people got hurt. And then the change came when Io Sky, Shirai she was then, and Kairi Hojo and Mayu Iwatani took over the Stardom Dojo, and they made wrestling fun again, and they made people enjoy what they were doing again. And now we're getting back to it being serious again in all the promotions because there's more at stake and there's more pressure. But the pressure's come naturally. It's not been forced from the top, it's been pushed from the bottom.
Yeah.
So the wrestlers have brought the standard up not by being like whipped into it, they've brought the standard up just by getting better at what they do and going off and learning and watching other people. Well, why did Iwatani become such a big star in Stardom? How can I replicate that? Why is Io Sky in WWE? How do I get there? Why is Kairi Hojo such a compelling character? What makes her interested in her? What's Asuka done to change the industry? Asuka in Japan as an independent promoter is the blueprint for what Saree is doing now. She did it first 10 years ago. And Saree watched and she learned and she's doing the things that Asuka did. And, all of those things shift the whole industry forward. It didn't hurt when Io Sky or Miyu Itani, it didn't hurt when Io Sky and Kairi Hojo left the WWE. It cleared out room at the top. It didn't hurt when Mayu Iwatani went to Marigold. It cleared out more room at the top. And it helped Marigold because the standard's going to go up because the best wrestler in Adam's history is in Marigold now, and she's dragging that roster up. There's always moves, there's always things that are helping those rosters get better. And then the standard goes up for everybody else because everybody goes and wrestles everybody else. I think we're in a really interesting place as far as Joshi is concerned for the next 12 months.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued as well for like places like TJPW, which kind of are outside of the. It's not that they're kind of a different bubble, but they do really well as well. And it's a different approach to pro wrestling compared to like Sendai Girls being dead serious, TJPW coming out of DDT as its host promotion and then forming as a Joshi company is obviously very, very different, right? It's kind of a bit more comedy and there's more storylines and there's more characters and there's big musical pieces, but it's also serious pro wrestling at the top. Really, really good pro wrestling at the top. And it intrigues me how they exist in a bubble outside of the Joshi world sometimes, but do just as well. In fact, do better sometimes than other companies do. I think it's really interesting to me how these companies intertwine and intermesh or don't and still succeed. Like, there was the logic of, well, you got Meiko Satomura, she's the linchpin, she holds everything together, she's the final boss. What happens when she retires? Well, Saree takes over that pole position easily, right, within about a month. And Ash takes over at Sendai Girls as the big star there. And all of a sudden, they're rocking and rolling. Every company's rocking and rolling. So yeah, it's really intriguing to me. And instead, and the other thing is, of course, you haven't got like one ace in a major company. Like if you say like Yotsuji is the rising ace of New Japan Pro Wrestling, because that's really what he is. But you look at the Joshi world, you've got Saree, you've got Hashimoto, you've got Iroha, you've got Kamitani in Stardom, you've got Miyamashita in TJPW. You've got 6 or 7 aces who are all exceptional, who are all putting in the work rate, who are all carrying their companies. Rising tide sinks all boats. Is my final thoughts, really. But it's a good tide to be on, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any further thoughts on what you've seen today, Marcus?
I'm just glad I got a chance to see it. Like I said, Ring of Honor has yet to disappoint us with the shows that we've covered. They only improving, and I don't think we can be disappointed by anything with Sendai Girls or Marigold. So, it's always just cool to get to these shows and really bring another perspective of a lot of shows that most people don't go looking for because they don't know to go looking for them, or they don't kind of want to broaden that perspective. But that's what we're here for.
Well, now was the time, and I'll tell you why. Because the yen just died against the pound. So if you're British, or even probably if you're American, price of the yen, I'm going to look it up because there was someone put a post of the yen. It's just cratered. So Wrestle Universe is 999 yen per month. That's £4.73 sterling. And US dollars is $6.34 a month. If you can't spend £5 a month or $6 a month on pro wrestling, you can watch Wrestle Universe, and for that you get Sendai Girls, you get Tokyo Joshi Pro, you get DDT, you get Noah, most of the Noah shows, Angana Bray, and Marvelous. 7 promotions there, and you will find something you will enjoy, I promise. Because there isn't nothing we don't like, is there?
And I second that. Like I said, it's a lot. It's a lot throughout the week. The plate is as full as it's ever been in the history of the sport. But it's the great stuff is not coming all from one place.
Absolutely not. And we've had a year of Wrestle Universe. That's the point, actually. We've had a year of Wrestle Universe. I should ask you about that. How have you enjoyed your year of Wrestle Universe?
I love it. Like the fact that it's a hub where you could just really get so much of this great stuff. And it's crazy to say that this not even all of what you can watch. Like I said before, this we was on our Gleat beat, and you can always still go over there and watch those folks. But so much of great Japanese wrestling confined and really cultivated in one spot, and you could just really just go pick your poison, if you will. All of it's not going to be for everybody, but a lot of it will be. And you might like one thing here and one thing there. And, this is allowed me an avenue to consistently watch, quality Joshi and not hear it from, old, really stuck in their ways white guys in the U.S. who, don't have the intentional willingness to want to understand it. They just think, Japanese women are small women that just hit each other and it's unbelievable and all that crap. So this is it's opened up so many avenues for me, and I'm glad we covered. Like you said, we've had a year of Wrestling Universe, and that's not even talk about all the other stuff that James covers with the True Penny Crew. So it's not like more than any other pod out in the wrestling industry, we try to cover as much of the gamut as possible. So
that's it. That's what we do here. Right then. that's it for today's Troopany show. We have got Today at Wrestling Christmas. We'll be starting next Saturday, he says, when I get back off of holiday and Christmas is more or less done. We'll be starting Today at Wrestling Christmas, which, as last year, is myself and a gamut of friends, as Marcus said, talking and watching pro wrestling. Some of it will be pre-recorded. Some of it we have to wait until people have actually had a chance to watch it because they've got jobs. And so we've got I think it's about 10 days of Wrestling Christmas in the run-up to Wrestle Kingdom. And then we'll watch Wrestle Kingdom, and then we'll have to take a little bit of a break because New Year's Dash happens on a Monday when I'm at work. Shocking behaviour. There we go. These things happen. So, but Christy will be joining us. Ruth will be joining us. Hopefully Marcus will be joining us. We'll have a chat about that in post-production. But in the meantime, Marcus, where can we find you on the internet?
Yes. You can find me on Twitter at ParadoxKid. That's ParadoxKid. Always down to chat.
There you go. You can find me at Sheriff Lone Star on Twitter, Blue Sky, Mastodon. What the heck's Mastodon? Don't know. Mastodon. Pixel Fed occasionally. I'm on Instagram as Sheriff Lone Star TX as well. You can find the show Trooping Show on Blue Sky, on Twitter, and on Instagram. We will be back next Monday with a pre-recorded show. I haven't decided which one, so I'm going to leave that as a surprise. Because controversy creates cash, apparently. In the meantime, have a lovely Christmas period. And whatever holiday you celebrate, please enjoy it well. We'll see you next week. Take care. Bye.